Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? It is Well Red Beard, and it is a damn fine day to talk about a book. And today we are here for a book review. And we're going to talk about My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I really like this book, which again, it's hard to say that I really like this book because of the content of the book. I mean, it is a brutal story about a young girl, 15 years old, that is in a relationship with her 42-year-old English professor. What I liked about it is it's a deep look into her point of view. This is all from her point of view, um, and and I guess maybe a look at why or how things like this happened, because she never feels abused. I mean, even later into her life, 30 years old, he's at that point, what, 57, 60 years old. I mean, even then, she does not feel that she is a victim. So much so that when other girls from the school start to come forward with claims of sexual assault and abuse against this teacher, she does not consider herself with them. She doesn't consider herself one of them. He loved me, right? And so, anyway, just a deep look at that, and just that whole scenario altogether. But it's brutal and it's painful, stomach turning at times to read. So synopsis, and then we'll talk a little bit more. My Dark Vanessa is a hard story to read, damn, and a harder one to put down. A well constructed package of dynamite. Stephen King, and I agree with that 100%. Um, how hard it was to put down, like so much so that like I thought about that. I was like, well, why is this so hard to put down? I mean, um, ah, I don't know. Exploring the psychological dynamics of the relationship between a precocious yet naive teenage girl and her magnetic and manipulative teacher, a brilliant, all consuming read that marks the explosive debut of an extraordinary new writer. I didn't know it was a debut. This is a phenomenal debut. I need to see if she's written anything else. So the year 2000, bright, ambitious, and yearning for adulthood, 15-year-old Vanessa Y, W-Y-E, Vanessa Y, becomes entangled in an affair with Jacob Strain, her magnetic and guileful 42-year-old English teacher. 2017. So we're kind of going back and forth between 2000 and forward, like 2000, 2001, 2002, and 2017, which is our present day. Amid the rising wave of allegations against powerful men, i.e., Matt Lauer, and that whole it was a movement, wasn't? I mean, powerful men. A reckoning is coming due. Strain has been accused of sexual abuse by a former student who reaches out to Vanessa, and now Vanessa suddenly finds herself facing an impossible choice: remain silent, firm in the belief that her teenage self willingly engaged in this relationship, or redefine herself in the events of her past. But how can Vanessa reject her first love, the man who fundamentally transformed her and has been a persistent presence in her life? Is it possible that the man she loved as a teenager and who professed to worship only her may be far different from what she has always believed? Alternating between Vanessa's present and her past, My Dark Vanessa juxtaposes memory and trauma with the breathless excitement of a teenage girl discovering the power her own body can wield. Thought provoking and impossible to put down, this is a masterful portrayal of troubled adolescence and its repercussions that raises vital questions about agency, consent, complicity, and victimhood. Written with haunting intimacy, unsettling vulnerability, and creeping intensity, My Dark Vanessa is an era defining novel that brilliantly captures and reflects the shifting cultural Moors transforming our relationships and society itself. Yeah. So I thought about 5 stars on this one, and I may circle back on it. Like, I do that sometimes, like, because a book gets 5 stars, really, the longer it sticks with me, not necessarily how I leave the book feeling. I mean, I left the book feeling like it's a great book, but I was like 4 stars. So, what I'm saying is, a lot of 4 star books are never ever considered to be 5 stars for me, but this one was like, it crossed my mind, and it may cross my mind again. So, um, you you get it. I mean, a 42-year-old English professor, and a 15-year-old girl, and all of the ugliness that is. What for me, the brutal parts were, again, it's all we spend all of our time with Vanessa. I mean, Strain is a secondary character. This is all about Vanessa. But when she thought slash knew that the time had come for them to actually do the deed and actually have sex, her her nervousness about that, her worrying about that, her reading from 17 magazine, we spend time in her head and in her thought process, and that part just, I was just like, oh my God, there are deep ties to Nabokov. Of course, there are, but I mean, like, really, really deep ties. So much so that, of course, you probably know the gist of Lolita. I've never read it. I'm gonna have to read it. Um, I guess. I mean, I don't really want to read it, but I guess I'm gonna have to read it, as a follow up to this or whatever. But there are deep ties to Nabokov. I mean, so much so that he like gives her a book. I guess Pale Fire was another Nabokov title. I guess it's supposedly a better book than Lolita. Um, but My Dark Vanessa is actually in that book. Like he calls a girl his Dark Vanessa in Pale Fire. And so that is, I guess, an Easter egg, or I guess kind of part of where the title came from. I mean, but just everything, like when they first started, he first started paying her extra attention, calls her up to his desk, kind of, there's like the first bit of touching, and she doesn't, I guess, balk at that. Like, she is open to this, open to, and I mean, he looks at her and says, "I'm going to ruin you," and I was just like, um, a couple other things that again, the part where she's kind of preparing, that was, and then the ties to Pale Fire. I've already mentioned that. And just parts where she talks about Humbert, who is, I guess, the character in uh, Lolita, and talks about the idea of nymphets and the age of 9 to 14 in a young girl, and she's talking to Strain again. She's 15 years old, and he gets so offended. Is that what you think I am, a pedophile? Yeah, 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 you are. Uh, anyway, and I hate to mention this. Hold on one thing here. Um, so yeah, the ties to My Dark Vanessa from Pale Fire. That's what that was. But it does have a brief mention of Bruce Springsteen in the song "Redheaded Woman," which is not a widely known song by any means, but it's used in this book in a way that I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. But I'm not going to go into it. I'm not even going to read the line, but it is kind of a crude line about a redheaded woman, and you're wasting your life if you haven't ever done this, and so a bit of a turn off for one of, I guess, a guy that I would consider one of my heroes, one of my idols. So anyway, but this is a great book, and there's an event that happens midway through the book that is it's hard not to to give anything away about it, so I'm going to leave it at that. But again, she's grown now. I mean, she's in her early 30s, and it feels like it's never really addressed, but it feels like she was this bright young student at this private school with tons of potential and was gonna go on and do big things. And it feels like none of that happened. Like she was gonna be a poet or a writer or something, and she's like works at a hotel, which again, I'm not trying to belittle her profession or whatnot, but it does feel like none of her potential was ever reached because all she's doing is sitting around and waiting on this man, waiting on this. I mean, at this point, if she's 33, again, he's 60, waiting on this man to pay her, to give her the time of day. I mean, because they do continue this relationship off and on throughout her young adulthood, throughout her 20s. And all along there have been rumors that so and so that this happened with this other girl. There was a claim, oh, it was shut down, it was buried under the it was false or no big deal, right? But she finds out more and more along the way about who this guy was. And of course, look, hey, we knew all along, right? We the reader knew all along who this guy was. But she is left to deal with that and come to terms with that in a world where um this is like the biggest thing in her life, right? This is the most important thing. I mean, he is the most important person in the world to her, and she has to come to terms with maybe she was just another conquest, right? And so I don't know. It's brutal, but it's beautiful, and it's hard to read, but it's so easy to read. And I don't know. I really really liked it. I'm sitting here right now second guessing that 4-star rating, but this is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. It's been sitting on my shelf on my TBR forever. I mean, I think it kind of made the rounds in the horror genre, like horror readers like were posting about this and all that, 4 or 5 years ago, and so I had picked it up, but I'd not gotten into it, and it's one of the ones I'm like, damn, what took me so long, Which again, there are a lot that are the opposite. Damn, that was overhyped, but this one was not in any way, shape, or form overhyped. This is My Dark Vanessa, Kate Elizabeth Russell. Really, really, really like this book. This has been Well Red Beard. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying all your books, all of them, as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.